What's up, guys? So, today's episode of K1 Attack Things, I think I'm going to start with the rear suspension. Obviously, I've been having problems with it, with a lot of positive camber, and I've been trying to mess around with various different things, and I've got a few more things that I'm going to try now and see where we can get. If I can get that rear suspension done, I will feel so much better about this situation, because that has been the bane of my existence. I mean, obviously everything on this car has been the bane of my existence because nothing fits and nothing works, but the suspension has really been tripping me up because I'm like, I don't know what to do about it. But I have ideas now, so let's try it. Okay, so I have the suspension kind of torn apart because like I talked about before, I wasn't sure if there was a difference between 94 to 97 and 90 to 93 lower control arms. So you can see here, at first glance, they look identical. And for all intents and purposes, they might be basically the same. But, so this one right here is 94 to 97. This one's 90 to 93. So here, like I have a bolt in here, so it's basically like it can't be off. Basically what I'm seeing is this looks the same, this looks the same, but if you look here, the bushings are in a slightly different location for the lower strut, and then here it's very difficult to tell, but I kind of feel like this might be just a hair further out. It's not a lot, it might be a 1/4 inch, but if it is about a 1/4 inch, that will give me a little bit more negative camber, which is what I'm after. So I'm gonna throw this in and hopefully it does something for me. Okay, I only put one on this side and it really didn't do enough. I mean, granted, I will say currently the brakes are locked up because that park lock that I installed a while back is fucked up. It just locked on for some reason and won't release. And it might change after it rolls, but yeah, I checked it. It's like 1.25 inch positive still, so it's not enough. So I guess I am gonna have to get the uppers and try that. All right, guys, back here working on the suspension in the rear again. So I got these control arms. These are some adjustable uppers for the front of a 90-93 Integra or like an EF Civic. Supposedly everything I've read is that when you put these on Accords, just the stock control arms bring the camber in, but they also fit with the aftermarket ones. So I got this one already bolted in on this side. It seems to work pretty good. I dialed it in pretty far. It's not quite touching. It's close, real close. I wanted to see how much I can get out of it. So far, I think this is gonna work, guys. I really do. I'm about to put the wheel on it, put it on the ground, and see where we're at. Okay, so first check, I put it on the ground. Definitely better. It was like less than 1/2 degree positive, and I didn't have it all the way in because I was kind of worried that it was going to hit the coilover. But now I'll show you here in a second. I figured out that when it's all the way in the air, it's as close to the coilover as it can be, but then the further up the tire goes, the further away it gets. So I think I can actually be really, really close to that coilover and it's not going to cause a problem. But I'll show you here in a second exactly what I mean. So if you look here, you can barely see there's light between that spring and that perch. But as I jack it up, it actually gets further away. So I have more room. And that, if you look here, is pretty close to where it was on the ground. So I think this is gonna work. I'm about to lower the car down and then we'll see where we're at with this. But I moved that camber adjustment in quite a bit, so I think I actually gained quite a bit. I might actually be negative camber now. We'll see. Hell yeah, guys. We're sitting at 1/2 degree negative finally. God damn. Well, of course, like everything on this car, nothing goes smoothly. Went to put this side back on, and this nut stripped out. Won't go on, won't come off. It's stuck on there. Great. Okay, crisis averted. I was able to get that one off of there. I ended up having to take the whole control arm back out and re-threading this. Luckily, it was just the nut. All the threads came out of it, but the stud, like it was fucked up a little bit, but they were still okay. So I was able to get another nut. Obviously, it was just temporary because it looks like shit compared to the other one, but I'll get one at the parts store. So yeah, on to the next thing. Okay, I decided to start moving on to something else. Trying to figure out where to put everything. like trying to figure out cooling system is kind of tricky with what I have going on right now. So I think what I was going to start messing with right now is trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to put electronics and stuff. So I put the dash back in. I've got the cluster surround, you know, in here because I've got this Haltech screen. I've got this, obviously I'm going to be running Haltech Elite 1500, which I've had that for a while, and the screen. So I was just kind of getting an idea, you know, of how it fit in there. There's definitely gonna have to be some trimming and stuff involved. It didn't come with any sort of bracket. There's just like 3 screws on there, so I might have to get some sort of universal to, you know, kind of work on bracketing that up. And then obviously I've got to do a lot of fiberglass work to get it to sit in there correctly. But I think the most important part right now is I've got all the cables and stuff, and I kind of wanted to lay out the cables and kind of get an idea like where I'm going to run them through, which at the moment I'm probably going to go down here. I'm kind of leaning towards putting the Haltech probably back in the engine bay. They make some roll bar mounts. I don't know which exact roll bar I want to put it. I'm thinking somewhere in this area, but I kind of want to see how much like slack I have on all the wiring so I can kind of gauge what I got to play with, I guess. Okay, so I went through that cable. Kind of looks like, I think it's going to reach no problem to back here where I need to, but I think the next thing I want to do is I'm going to put this engine harness in. It's just like a cheap eBay harness. I went through it, and it seems like all the wiring appears to be going to the right spots. I don't see any powers or, you know, shorting the ground or anything weird like that. So I'm going to put this on the engine bay, and then then I'll at least have an idea how much extra cable I have on this one. I mean, then I'll actually have to have my jumper harness, which I don't have yet. But then I've got, yeah, the rest of the stuff for Haltech, I can kind of figure it out. Okay, so I got the wiring harness all kind of ran. I'm still got a couple things that aren't plugged in, like TPS and stuff, because I don't even have a TPS right now. I don't have an intake temp sensor. A couple things that need to be rewired, but at least it gives me a good idea because I've got quite a lot of this. So I could realistically run this in a lot of different places. I'm still not entirely sure. I did start working on some other things because while I was at it, I was like, well, while I'm in here, I got the crossover pipe in there. The thermostat housing is in there. I actually pulled the thermostat out of the housing. I drilled a couple holes in it, like small holes, because I know how these things are, especially like when you mid-engine something. Like it'll be a pain in the ass to bleed it, and that'll make it a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, so I mean, it's, you know, the wiring is pretty much figured out. I bolted the valve cover down just for now because, I mean, obviously it's gonna have to come off because I'm gonna have to put ports in it for, you know, a catch can and get it powder coated and all that stuff. But I needed it on because eventually I need to start this even before everything's done. So just kind of working through a bunch of different things. Yeah, on to the next part. All right, next thing I think I'm going to tackle is I think I'm going to put the alternator on there because then I'll have, at least that'll be figured out. That'll be on there. Well, kind of figured out. It may not be permanent. I don't know. We'll see. I got this one here. I think this is the one that I actually had on the Mini Cooper at one time. So I know it works. So I think I'm going to bolt that on in the factory location. I've got an extra EP3 pulley kit from the Mini Cooper that I don't technically need, so I think I might just throw that on there. And then I think I have an extra belt too, so I can probably just get a belt on it and everything. I mean, granted, I won't have any other accessories because I haven't decided 100% what I want to do about the power steering situation, or if I want to even attempt air conditioning. I don't think I do because it seems kind of silly because it doesn't have a roof, but I don't know. We'll see. Power steering, I'm kind of leaning towards going electric, like either hydroelectric or just getting like electric rack. I don't know yet. We'll see. But I think at the moment, for my plans, I can probably just put the EP3 pulley kit on it and we'll be good. So let's get to throwing this on. Okay, so it turns out I don't have an auto tensioner right now. I need to get one from my buddy if he has one. Basically, I need one of these because I can't mount the EP3 pulley kit without it. So gonna wait on that. In the meantime, I did start messing with Haltech stuff. This is my adapter this is the EP3 adapter that Haltech makes. This is the one I had in the Mini Cooper. It's obviously I've tapped into a couple times. I'll probably have to fix a couple wires. I got my Elite 1500 here. I'm kind of sort of messing around with where I can put it. I'd really like this to be inside the car because I'm gonna have, this is gonna be kind of open. I'm gonna have some of these ports being used. I mean, technically this is supposed to be weather resistant. I'm just kind of worried about this stuff. So I don't know if I want it out here. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe under the dash somewhere. but I need to see if this wiring will reach. So I think I'm gonna try and run this down the tunnel and see how far it'll go and what makes sense. So I got it ran through the tunnel. Currently the way I have it right now, this one is pretty tight. I'm gonna end up having to lengthen this wire, I think, or lengthen these two wires to get a little bit more slack here. Then I can kind of attach either the cables or the bar or both. And then I kind of got it ran through the tunnel. You can kind of see the wiring in there. And the adapter is sitting right here, which unfortunately is too wide to sit flat. But I think if I angle it like this, I think we'll be all right, and it'll be able to tuck in behind this panel on the other side. And then I've got the Haltech is sitting up here at the moment, but what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a roll bar mount. I'm gonna mount it to this roll bar here and kind of have it sitting kind of, you know, up, kind of sitting flat, basically up in there. So then it's accessible from the interior, and it'll be kind of in a good spot where I can run other fuse boxes and stuff kind of centered in the car. And then I think what I might do is get like a USB kind of like port and put it, I don't know, somewhere in here so that I can run my tuning cable from the Haltech to that port, and then I can just plug in, or I guess the port to there, and then plug in my cable to the laptop into whatever port I put on this tunnel. And then I should have, you know, I'll have tons of room to run the wiring for the dash. And then the only other thing is the wideband. I should probably check and make sure that's gonna reach. Okay, I took the dash back off so you kind of see it, and so I could get at it. So basically what I ended up having to do, so this was the original CAN cable that I had for the wideband. It didn't need to be very long, but because it's in the back, now I need a long one. Well, it just so happens that the one that came with the screen is actually really, really long because of whatever reason. But it actually reaches all the way back to where I need it to be with that wideband module. So I think that's gonna work out really good back there. You know, obviously I got my wideband here. And then the problem that I do have currently is that there's only one port on the Elite 1500. So I'm gonna have to get one of the CAN expanders, which basically plugs into there, and then you get multiple ports that you can plug in for CAN. So then I can plug in my screen right here. I can use the smaller cable for that because it'll reach no problem to the screen. All right, so luckily my buddy did have the tensioner pulley that I needed. So now I've got the EP3 pulley on there, and I even had a belt that fit. So I just took off the one that I had on the Mini Cooper when it was all motor. So yeah, look at that, belt drive's all done. Okay, so I went to the hardware store and I picked up some brass tubing. The reason being is I needed to make some spacers for these bolts. These are the bolts that go through the fuel rail to the intake manifold, and I'll show you why. Basically, there was a big gap because there was no spacer in here. It doesn't line up right, so I made these little spacers, and if you can kind of, if it'll focus, they actually slide through the fuel rail, and they fit just right so that they're going to take up the distance and stop the bolt from going down further on the intake manifold, but I can still get the bolt in and out, and I don't have to slide the spacer in and then put the bolt in. They're not super thick, so they're not like super strong, so I can't crank them down like super hard, but I think for what I'm trying to do with it, I think it's gonna work out really good. All right, there you go. You can see I got those done. I will say that was, that last one was like the second idea. I ended up, this is probably the fourth redo on these because I had to keep playing with the sides to get it just perfect, because it had to be like exact. Like if I was an 1/8 inch off, it just, yeah, it was too loose, too tight, whatever, but I got it. So I did a little bit more with the wiring. I did, I extended this one over. I didn't have enough heat shrink. I'll have to depin this and heat shrink that later, but it's at least wired up. I did the same thing with the vehicle speed sensor because it has the wrong clip on it, and the pins are in different locations because this is a K24 tranny versus a K20, which is what the harness is for. And then the NOx sensor back in there, also the wrong plug on it. I wired that up, so I got all of that situated, so I'm feeling pretty good about all of that. Then I also took the time to put the slave cylinder on. I don't have the correct line right now. I have like this just random line that came with a, you know, some sort of K-series swap kit or whatever. So it has an AN fitting on there. So what I probably end up doing is just getting a new line that's really long, obviously, so I can run it all the way up to the clutch pedal, which I still haven't even put the master cylinder in up there yet, but we'll get to that. All right, guys, I think that's going to be it on this video. I'm pretty excited. The rear suspension is actually got negative camber now. It is amazing. I was so worried about that, and I'm so glad I figured that out finally. And I got the, and now the wiring is starting to come together. Really starting to figure things out. It's really like, I'm starting to get to the point with the car where I can actually like make decisions and go, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. It was like at the beginning, it was so difficult because it was like, I don't know where this goes. I don't know where this goes. I have no idea how this works, And now that I'm starting to work my way through it, it's making things a lot easier. So I've got some more electronic stuff coming for this wiring situation. Got some like battery cable, got a fuse box, modules, that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can get this thing wired up enough to get to the point, at least to start it. I still got like lights and all the other stuff that I'm not too worried about right now, but it would be nice to start this thing. So stay tuned because that should be coming sometime soon. I'm not sure when, but hopefully within the next, month, 2 months, something like that. We'll see. But yeah, for the moment, just make sure you're doing all the things. Like, subscribe. Peace out.